This episode of The Unwashed Asses is brought to you by everybody, every beautiful human being over at patreon.com/0and09. Support you guys give me means the world. It keeps this show and many others, like Zero Lives, up and running. Gives me, a reason to come back week after week because while I do it for free, I don't do it for free. I don't know. So if you like what you hear, consider tossing in $1 a month. Less than even a cup of coffee. Head on over to patreon.com/0and09. Welcome to the Unwashed Asses, episode 11, recorded. Don't have my glasses here, hard to make out. Not even April. Saturday. Saturday? Yeah, it's Saturday, April 15th. Tax day! Holy shit! Tax day 2017. So, don't be like me. Well, I've already got my taxes done. I don't know why I'm saying that, but make sure they're in today, because you don't want the tax man a-knocking. So, last week I promised I would do some research about the next box, and didn't really look into it. I'm sorry. It's been a busy week, and I've been putting off recording the show. I don't know. I know why. It's just I feel stupid when I record. Like, nobody listens to this. Nobody gives a shit, and it's silly that you're 32 years old talking to a microphone and half the time playing video games, and what are you accomplishing with your life? So it got into that self-degradation, and as I've found and have told you in the past, when it gets like that, I just have to shut up and do what I need to do. In this case, record a show. So after sitting around literally all day yesterday and today, playing nothing but Smite and Overwatch, here I am. So, apologies about the delay. I'm really, really trying hard to get better about that. So, that being said, what are we talking about this week? A lot of video games. Namely like Bloodborne and Overwatch. And actually, I have a little bit of show notes here. So, what else we got? The Beauty and the Beast musical. So, let's kind of start there then. I don't know, maybe a month ago, the little lady, my girlfriend, got an idea that, well, let's try something new. Let's try something different. She had never seen a musical. The last one I saw it was a few years back in Korea, so wasn't in English, and I didn't understand it, but I was able to kind of piece things as they went along, and I'm like, let's go ahead. We'll see a traditional musical. So found one playing about an hour north of where I live, in a very small town. And I had never been before, not only to this particular musical, which was Beauty and the Beast, but to the town or the theater thereof. So it was an interesting journey as far as kind of not only booking it, but then figuring out what's going on. So we got the tickets, and then there was the big long debate of, well, what do we wear? Is it a formal thing? Do we just show up in jeans and a t-shirt? And I don't know. It's not often that we do get out, so when we do get out, I like to make the most of the day, and that's kind of how this was going to play out, because we ended up getting there. It's not only just the play, but it's also dinner as well. So they want you. We ended up showing up there around 10:30 in the morning, and we didn't leave until probably 5 o'clock that afternoon. When we were deciding, she had a friend who had been there, and it's a semi-formal. You can either dress up or you do like dress casual with like khakis. But as soon as we get there, of course, we see there's like assholes with just jeans and a t-shirt. So it didn't matter because I like dressing up, and she looks amazing when she dresses up. So we got all duded up and took our ride over there, and I don't know. I don't have that self consciousness anymore about what I wear and what people think about me because based on what I'm wearing. I don't know. I don't like people, so I don't much give a fuck what they think about me, which is amazing in its own right. That I'm so self conscious about the content that I put out and what people think of it. But I don't know. I think that's more of a me reflecting on my own work because I think my work is my actual self-worth, not what I wear. So people judging what I do and what I have passion for versus hey, that Windsor knot you put in that silk tie, it's uncalled for. It's very basic, it's very plain. You should have learned a different knot. Why are you even wearing a suit? Because we have dumb fucks here just wearing polos and khakis. It just, I don't know. I'm weird. And I feel weird about saying that, but anywho, let's not go down that rabbit hole. So we get there and there's school buses. So apparently this was part of a field trip as well, where we found out not one but 3 different schools had decided to show up, and then there were a couple of senior citizen groups that had decided to take a look at the play as well. So the play, the event itself is in this theater where it's walking into it. There's after you get your tickets, it's a very long corridor of shops full of knickknacks. Not even things necessarily pertaining to the play itself. There's different shops selling different things like jewelry, clothing, toys, memorabilia. But again, not necessarily memorabilia relating to the specific play itself. And they have different shows that do different run times. So it was kind of, I was put off by that. Like it didn't feel like they were dedicated necessarily to the one event. And this was something the overall impression I had about it was that it was all kind of second rate. I wanted to see more effort put into it all. And this was part of it, was the shops themselves. Now, the other part of it was that we got there at 10:30. We find out that we're not going to eat until I think it was like a quarter after 11, maybe closer to noon. Either way, we were sitting for a very long time with nothing to do. So we perused through the shops and didn't really find anything worth getting, and it was jam-packed, assholes to elbows, and I don't know. That's why I call them the unwashed asses, because they're just the unwashed masses. What happens then is that we decide to start making our way towards the restaurant. Maybe we're thinking it's a thing of we can order some food, we can eat early, or figure out at least what's going on, to have something to do. So we go to the hostess, we get seated, and I start noticing where we're sitting. It could be extremely nice that there's this gigantic fire pit with water trickling around it, and this stone tower that's going up from the first floor through a hole in the second floor all the way to the ceiling, and there's like these wooden hot air balloons and boats and whatnot, all these like weird antiques strung from the rafters, but also hanging everywhere are cobwebs. They don't clean the fucking place. It's not only stuff sitting high up in the ceiling, but I could reach out because we were sitting next to this big chimney thing and swipe at the cobweb. Just I don't know, overall cleanliness I wasn't too impressed with. But we find out then that dinner isn't a menu. There is a meal that is set for everybody, which ended up being, I thought, was really good. There was some roast beef, mashed potatoes and gravy, the long form green beans. And then they had halved these tomatoes and scooped them out and put in like what the fuck is it? It's like a spinach and cheese artichoke dip, which paired really well with the bread, I found out. So, I mean, it wasn't awful by any stretch of the imagination. It was fairly decent, but it was, I don't know. I for what we paid, I expected much more, and that was the thing too. Is when we got up there and sat down, we were kind of not necessarily ravenous, but very, very hungry. I hadn't eaten breakfast that morning. I don't think she did either. And so we get up there, and it's like, okay, well, we want to eat. So we spot down the stairs. There is a little bakery selling pastries and zucchini bread and muffins and all kinds of other stuff. So we got some cinnamon rolls and some blueberry pastries, which were extraordinarily good. I was very, very happy with those, and they made a very excellent breakfast the next day as well. So we munch on some of those, wait around. Food eventually comes, and while we're waiting, get a wild hair up, in the ass, and it's like, oh, well, let's go ahead. And they had this like Oreo cookie shake that we got, and it was so rich and silky smooth and creamy, and just it was by far the best fucking milkshake I have ever had. And so we split that, got a Coke with it, and I found that how sweet and smooth that shake was. Having the Coke after it provided a nice sharpness and to the Coke itself, because I'm more of a Pepsi guy. I don't necessarily care for Coke. I'll drink it if it's around, but this made me appreciate it. So we eat our meal. It was during this time that we find out, that the shake and the Coke, those aren't necessarily like included with the tickets, so we do have to pay for that. But I don't know if our waiter was scatterbrained or if they were just going to charge the card, because nobody ever came by with a bill. And the same for like the tip. There was no place for us to write anything down. It's just like he cleared our plates and that was it. We were just sitting there. So it's like, well, fuck it. I guess we're just going to get up and go. So I'll have to ask her and see if the card got charged after the fact. But otherwise, yeah, I'm sorry, Eli. You done fucked up, man. You got to stay on top of your job there. But we go back downstairs and we're wandering around some more, waiting for the play to start. And they have this little bar area, which is underneath the dining room. So we go sit there, and I actually fall asleep in the chair, just completely pass out. And I'm like nodding in and out. She's playing on her phone, and eventually the show is about to start. They start seating everybody. Now, this is what threw me, because I was expecting a traditional stage play in terms of everybody's kind of sitting facing the same direction. There's a stage on a platform, and there's going to be props, this, that, and the other thing. But instead, it's a smaller auditorium with it's not a circular stage, but there's a square stage in the center of it. Now, all the chairs are facing towards the center. There's a small balcony, again, ringing it up there. What I find then is there aren't like conventional props. There's not a set. There's nothing for the actors to interact with. So I'm curious as to how they're going to do it, and I'm noticing that the auditorium's decorated, but it's all cheap. There are painted fleur-de-lis on just very thin particle board tacked up around, and just the paint, it's like, I'm a terrible painter, and I could have done a better job painting these things. That being said, once the play actually started and how they did it, I was very impressed. I was astounded with it. The acting was very good. The music, and they actually did have props. The way it worked was There were 4 aisles that all led towards this center stage. So the actors would go in and out. And then the center of the stage itself was a big circle that they could lower it so the actors could come in and out through that. It could be raised, it could be spun. And what they would do is they were very clever about moving from one scene to the next and making it feel natural and flow, so that as they're going from like the village to the woods to Beast Castle, it all actually works because they of how they planned it and how they're putting in the props themselves. Um, the costumes were fucking on point. I was shocked because again everything leading up to this had been kind of lackluster. So it looks like this is kind of where all the focus and the effort went, and honestly, seeing it like that, it not that it made sense and forgave the other things, but all that other stuff just went to the back of my mind immediately because I of what I was seeing, and the caliber of their performances there. There wasn't anybody that fucked up, forgot a line, or wasn't convincing. Beast was a misunderstood douchebag. Belle was innocent and sweet and strong at the same time. Gaston was charming and a total d-bag, and that was the thing that struck me as kind of weird was that hold on guys, I gotta pause this real quick. Okay, we're good. Sorry. False alarm, everybody. False alarm. False alarm. We're all cool. How are you doing? Everything's fine. No, sorry. Got a bunch of security alerts and turned out it was somebody in the right place accessing the right things. So I'm not used to seeing those. So where was I? But the play itself was very well done. But what threw me was that it was lifted directly from the Beauty and the Beast movie. Now, bear in mind, I haven't seen this since I was young, but still, I recognize all the beats and the songs, and there seemed to be a few that were actually added in. I don't know if they wrote them or if they were part of another Disney production meant for the stage, but those didn't seem to have the same impact and import that the main Beauty and the Beast songs have. That being said, overall it was a very, very enjoyable experience, and I was pleasantly surprised that it was an auditorium full of middle schoolers, teenagers, old people, folks like my girlfriend and I, and everybody was quiet, polite, just enjoying the show. It wasn't like a theater where they're checking their phones or yelling or doing anything else. It was a very nice experience. That being said, for the ticket price, I don't know that it was necessarily worth it. I wouldn't mind going to more, but it was kind of pricey for what we got out of it. And I don't know if this is the norm or if it's just this particular theater, but now I'm interested in seeing what others have to offer. So if you guys have had a similar experience in a theater or with musicals, definitely write into the show, theunwashedasses@gmail.com, or hit up the Twitter at theunwashedasses. I'd love to get some comparisons or recommendations as far as other shows we should check out, because I don't think either of us were turned off to the entire experience. It was just pricier than we would have thought for what we got out of it. But still, it was a lot of fun, just to get dressed up and go somewhere, have a nice sit down meal and do something new and different. Afterwards we still went out to like Buffalo Wild Wings and walked around the mall and made purchases that shouldn't have been made, or that's going to lead here into the second bit. But overall, yeah, musicals, good time. Jesus fuck, it's hot. like 80 and there's a tinge of humidity in the air, and wasn't expecting this today. It's like yesterday was a little bit chilly, but still a fairly nice day. I was able to keep the windows open, and sorry about that. I should have drank when during the break there. But yeah, it's hot. I hate the heat and the humidity. It was nice yesterday. Today, I mean, I have all the windows open, but I'm just sitting here in jeans and a t-shirt. And it's like, fuck. If I was actually doing anything, I'd be sweating like a bastard. But I'm fat, and I need to change that. And then hopefully, I'm not sweating anymore. I mean, I'll still sweat, but it won't be as bad and as funky. So, yeah, it's sad. I got to go to work tomorrow and do all this stuff in the heat and ugh. But oh well, what are you gonna do? It's not like every one of us is independently wealthy and can do podcasts from their dedicated office and or recording studio. So, is what it is. For the rest of us, we have video games. So I had mentioned earlier that when we went to the mall and made some purchases that didn't make sense or shouldn't have made. Reason for that was I picked up Bloodborne again. I say again, and I didn't even really technically own it in the first place. First time around, the girlfriend had bought it as well as the PlayStation 4, and it stayed at my place for a bit. And I had been obsessed with Bloodborne ever since I first heard of it. It rivals Final Fantasy VIII for me in terms of just desire for a video game. With Final Fantasy VIII, that was really the first foray into serious gaming that I had ever had. Up until that point, it was mostly, I think it was all Nintendo consoles that I had. And while I did enjoy gaming, it wasn't anything like, I think it was Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask were the most serious that I got into a game story. So with Final Fantasy VIII, I saw the trailers for it in the theater. They were like the previews to the movies I was going to see, and they had the cinematics for them. And this was back in the day when pre-rendered cinematics in games were just starting to become a thing, and so it blew me away. I was astounded to see them. There's just a gorgeous looking game. I'm like, I can play this. So the game, I still remember, it came out September 9th, 1999, and I went out and I got it day one. I had just started 9th grade, I think, and so I was a freshman in high school, and I didn't have the PlayStation yet. I went out and I knew I wanted the game this much that I had the game before I had the actual console to play it on, and I didn't even know anybody that had a PlayStation that I could like borrow it from or go over to their house and play it there. And it was to the point where this was back when you could still get like gaming magazines, and there wasn't more than there were dozens, and so I would buy every one I could find that had something about Final Fantasy VIII in it, and I read through like the strategy guide for it like twice before I had the game. The deal I had to broker was with my grandma that I would give up my birthday and Christmas presents to get the PlayStation, and ended up waiting till Christmas, and it was either Christmas or my birthday. I ended up getting the console and Final Fantasy VIII. I still have my original copy. It was everything I had hoped it would be, and it definitely got me full swing into the world of gaming. And I've not had a game since then that really kind of enthralled me the same way until Bloodborne came about. And now, bear in mind, Bloodborne is in a very different genre than what I'm used to playing. In fact, it's its entirely own unique genre that was spawned from the Souls series, that kind of hardcore adventure where the game is brutally difficult but fair. Any time you die, it's essentially your own fuck up. I had played through the Asylum level on Dark Souls 1, but nothing besides that. And so it was the same situation where I didn't have the console, and this game was coming out that I really, really wanted. So I followed all the coverage for it, watched the tutorials and playthroughs, and just essentially absorbed everything that I could about the game. And it's, maybe a year and a half after it came out, girlfriend had surprised me with a purchase for both of us that she went and she got a PlayStation, and she got a few games with it, one of them being Bloodborne. So that was the game that broke that console's cherry. And holy shit, was it so good. I just loved that game so much. And I haven't beaten it yet, but I made a good chunk of my way into it. But just everything from the story, which is told so subtly, to the visuals, which are just gothic perfection, and the combat and the horror elements mixed in with the psychic horror of like Lovecraft. It is all wedded together in just this absolute perfect symphony. And I'm enthralled with this game. I love it so much. Well, because I was being an ass and we weren't on good terms, I had her take the PlayStation back to her house and where it was stolen. We have yet to get a replacement PlayStation, mostly because, no time. She's still hoping she can get her old one back, and I don't know. That's just one reason after the next. But it happened that we were walking through the mall, and anytime a mall has a GameStop, because we both play a fairly large amount of games in our free time, we always make a stop in there, and we'll walk through the Xbox section because that's what I have, and then we'll walk through the PlayStation section and just kind of meander everywhere. But she's still lamenting the loss of the PlayStation, and rightfully so. It really sucks that happened, because not only did they steal the console, they stole all the games with it. And so she was thinking, oh man, I'd love to play Bloodborne, because she enjoyed playing it too. And I was thinking, like, yeah, that's the same thing. So found it's $20 brand new, and like, screw it. I've done this before, I'll do it again. So went ahead and I picked up the game, and it's sitting on my shelf along with all my other games, and it's taunting me like, you have me, yes, but you don't have a way to play me. And I don't know, maybe soon, or sooner or later, eventually I'll get another PS4, and holy hell, you better bet your ass that I'm going to be playing the shit out of that game. Because what sucked is I couldn't find the collected edition where it had the expansion, but I mean, I can always get that from the PlayStation Store. It's not a big deal. But I mean, if it's Bloodborne related, I'm totally hooked and sold on it, to the point, like I have their card game, and I have the game, like I said, without having the console. If I find artwork, it all gets saved. I'd love to get the actual art book, but it's hard to find it that it's not like an import item. Soundtrack, essentially, like I'm hooked. I can't escape this game, and it's utter perfection. So hopefully sooner rather than later, we'll get another PlayStation and just be streaming the ever-loving shit out of it on Zero Lives. Aside from that, the games I actually can play, Overwatch, I have gotten back into that in the sense that they released a new event called Uprising, and I haven't played Overwatch since the last event they had, which was the Chinese New Year, the Year of the Rooster event, which was fun. It introduced Capture the Flag, but I don't know. I enjoy Overwatch, but I like playing support roles, and it's kind of frustrating in that game that there's very little to no communication, and people always kind of leave me to die. And it's extremely well polished. It's a great game, but it loses my attention kind of quickly. So I'll play it, and I'll play it, and I'll play it, and then I just, I'll leave it sit for a few months. So typically what gets me, and probably why they do this, to get everybody back in, is they'll release an event every few months. In this case, it's called Uprising, and what it does is it focuses on not necessarily the origins of the Overwatch team, but one of their missions. In fact, the first mission that Tracer had gone on, where after repelling the Omnic threat and then trying to broker a peace with them, a section in England, King's Row, comes under attack from a rogue faction trying to destroy said peace. And so it's a PvE event where it's much like Junkenstein's Revenge for the Halloween of last year. You have 4 characters that are already selected for you. In this case, it's Reinhardt, Tracer, Torbjorn, and Mercy. And it's a horde mode, but it's also, I don't know, it's more objective based. So you get put into the King's Row map, which has been redone for the event, and it's you and 3 other players fighting wave after wave of enemy robots. And you have to get from one point to the other, activate certain things, and it takes, I don't know, about 10-15 minutes depending on the team to get through. And it's just so incredibly well done, well put together, much like Junkenstein's Revenge was. That being said, I'm more partial to Halloween-based events, so that one still kind of edges this out, despite this one being more in-depth. But what they did that made it really cool was that with Junkenstein's Revenge, you only had the 4 characters, and that was it. It was always a thought of mine, well, what if we could do it with other characters? That'd be great. And that's just what they did with this. Where there's 2 modes. The first mode is you have the 4 characters that are assigned to you, and the second mode is a free-for-all. You can pick any character you want. And sure enough, there's a bunch of fun, new, interesting combinations that it's a great way to play it. They also added in a kind of a ease of life improvement, or quality of life improvement, where you can skip the intro now. You don't have to sit and watch it. Now, you can watch it if you want. Every one of the 4 players has to vote to skip it. If one person doesn't vote to skip it, they all have to watch it, which is good for the one person. He's not getting, cast out by a majority. And aside from just an overall great experience, I've been playing it like every chance I've been getting. They've also introduced, a batch of new costumes. So it's a lot of costumes for the core Overwatch team, earlier stuff. There's this really fucked up Genji skin where it's interesting to see because they're telling a story with the characters and their costumes. Like Genji, he's mutilated and half robot because clearly he's just survived the attack from his brother, but he's not full cyborg yet. He's not polished, so he's got these wires and tubes, and he looks like a big old man in metal clunker. Widowmaker isn't fully converted into a Talon agent yet. Her skin hasn't been dyed different color. She looks actually human still. Torbjorn, he has 2 different skins, and one of them he still has his eye and his arm. McCree still has his arm. A lot of these characters, it wasn't. I mean, I noticed it, but didn't pay much attention that there was very clearly a war that had taken place in this game, and a lot of the characters lost limbs to it. And now that we're introducing these costumes from different time periods, we're able to kind of piece the story together as far as oh yeah, some really bad shit happened, and some things really affected these characters. Like Lucio, he's completely, I think, missing his lower half. They're robot legs and rollerblades. So seeing you're starting to put it together, okay, well, Reinhardt has that big gnarly scar on his face before doing this King Rose thing, so clearly it happened in the big war beforehand. But McCree lost his arm sometime after this revolution and before the events of the current game. So it's hinting back at that subtlety that Bloodborne does with its storytelling, that they're not being overt. Like, sure, there have been some comics for Overwatch, but they're more just character pieces rather than telling an overall story. But if you're paying attention, you're able to pick up these bits and pieces and put it all together, and the way they're doing it is fantastic. It's why I keep coming back to Overwatch when we get new events like this, is because there's more of the story to put together, and also, let's be honest, I like playing dress up. So having the ability to get new costumes and excuse me, and make my characters look, fun and exciting is always appealing to me. So I did put up a video earlier this week that goes through all the different like costumes and emotes and victory poses, and then breaks down the two different modes with a playthrough of each. So definitely check that out on the YouTube channel. It's not even under 0 lives. I did it as a one-off, which I typically do. And I was thinking about that when I was recording it. Like, Overwatch is one of those few games that I just decided I'm gonna cover whenever there's a new event happening. I did it for the Summer Olympics, and I did it for the Halloween, and I don't know that I want to say I did it for the Year of the Rooster. I'm not entirely sure about that. I also did it for Christmas. So it's one of those things, like, I don't play a lot of it, but the game still holds a very dear place in my heart, so I will keep coming back to it. And I like doing those little coverage videos and kind of, finding the costumes and commenting on them and seeing what the new modes are like. Lucio Ball was not my cup of tea, but I can see what they were doing. Not like Smite, who's continually fucking the pooch with their new adventures and delaying patches for console and making life aggravating and terrible. But yeah, I don't know. It is what it is. And I'm finding a joy for gaming that I've not had in a while. I've been focused more on things I don't have and things I want to do but can't, instead of consoling myself in that I shouldn't have to rely on this one person if they don't want to hang out with me. I have these other things I can do, and not get so hung up on that, essentially. And it's been working. Smite has been a big help in that. With I know Mezzy and Bob and myself were working towards actually getting semi-competitive with it, so practicing a lot, not, during the week when it's not time to do a show. And then Overwatch it's super fun to play, even if I do get burnt out on it pretty easily. And so if we can get some more, Bloodborne back into the mix, then great. Otherwise, I overhauled the Zero Lives series, so we're playing like story games like Rise, Son of Rome. Even though that glitched out, it was fun to go and actually have something to focus on and play. And Destiny did their big update that's the last update of this title, and granted it's a rehash of everything that's been done, but I did a Nightfall Strike with two guys, and it was a lot of fun. It was really, really hard, but holy shit, it was a lot of fun once we beat it, and we're like, yeah, it's fucking awesome. I don't know, I'm being reinvigorated by gaming. It's kind of filling that empty spot in my life right now where I want to have something to do, but I still need to relax a bit. So like I feel like a lazy piece of shit, but I'm still putting out like 3 shows a week now, and I spent yesterday doing a lot of prep and editing for the Friday Night Smite show. So like I always think I'm not doing something, but then when I actually think of what I do throughout the week, I do a lot of shit. So I shouldn't feel too bad that I'm spending a little time playing video games here and there. But that's going to wrap it up for this episode. It's a little shorter, but I want to make sure I got it out instead of going another week without recording something. So next week we should have the full-fledged 3 set of topics to discuss, unless of course you guys decide to send an email over at theunwashedasses@gmail.com, or again at Twitter at theunwashedasses. I'd be happy to read anything on the air and kind of discuss things with you, because I would like this to evolve into kind of a conversation where I can say something, you offer me input, or we talk about whatever you guys want to talk about. So I know that you're listening. I don't know. Not that I want to be lazy and have you guys do some of the content on the show, but having that feedback would mean a lot. But hey, if you don't want to write, that's fine too. I can always come up with content and shock myself with, oh hey, you can ramble for quite a bit about all types of bullshit. But we'll see you next week.
I can feel the end, it's drawing near. It will soon be here. Oh, that much is clear. So shut the doors and turn off the lights. Let us sleep tonight. Let us huddle in the dark. Oh, my lover, you are beautiful, but that beauty comes at such a price. And I know that you'll soon disappear, like the dark and the night.